They abandoned the paralyzed alien girl. Only a human took her in and loved her. Once, this world had been full of life and laughter, vibrant cities rising from the ground, their towers glittering in the sunlight like jewels. But now, all that remained were ruins, hollow shells of what once had been. Lyra lay on the cold metal floor of a half-collapsed building, staring at the ceiling above. Her body refused to obey her commands. From the waist down, she could not move. Her legs, once strong and capable, were now lifeless. She tried again, her small hands pressing against the floor, but nothing changed. The isolation she felt was more crushing than the pain from her injuries. She remembered the chaos, the war, the evacuation. Her people, her friends, her family, they had fled in their ships, leaving her behind. They had left her to die, thinking she was no longer worth saving. She had heard the words shouted from the departing ships, cold and sharp. "She cannot keep up, leave her." Lyra had cried then, not just for her body, but for the betrayal. She had trusted them. She had believed that they would protect her, that they would never abandon her. But now all that trust was gone. The sky above was a constant reminder of their departure, the stars mocking her solitude. Yet even as the bitterness filled her chest, a spark of determination remained. She would not give up. She refused to let herself become nothing. She was still alive. She still had her mind, her intelligence, her curiosity. Perhaps, she thought, that could be enough. She dragged herself toward a pile of rubble and debris. It was slow work, exhausting work, but she did it. Her hands scraped against sharp metal and stone, leaving thin trails of blood, but she barely noticed. There was a small panel embedded in the wall, part of the old city's infrastructure. Lyra pressed her fingers against it, searching for a pattern she could understand. Her species had been highly intelligent, and she had always been a fast learner. Perhaps she could make this technology work. The panel flickered under her touch. Lines of alien symbols glowed dimly. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She tried to recall what she had learned in her lessons about technology, about energy. Carefully, she manipulated the controls. The panel hummed, and a soft light spread across the room. She had done it. She had activated something. She didn't know what it was yet, but it gave her hope. Hope was dangerous, she knew. It could be crushed as easily as it grew, but it was better than nothing. Lyra rested against the wall, letting her mind wander. She remembered the day of the accident, the day her legs stopped working. She had been exploring the cliffs near her home, a place she loved for its view of the endless valleys below. One wrong step, one unstable rock, and she had fallen. The fall had broken her body and changed her life forever. At first, she had been angry. Angry at herself, angry at the universe, angry at those who abandoned her. But the anger had faded, leaving behind something colder, determination. She had to survive. She had to find a way to move again, to see the stars without being trapped in this broken body. The first night was the hardest. The wind howled outside like a living thing, carrying with it the scent of metal and dust. Lyra curled into herself, trying to ignore the emptiness. She whispered her own name into the darkness, as if speaking it aloud would keep her alive. Lyra. She repeated it until the word became a promise. I will survive. I will find a way. Morning brought light, but not warmth. The sun barely broke through the dense clouds, casting long shadows across the ruined city. Lyra knew she could not stay inside forever. She needed food, water, and perhaps, most importantly, information. The ruins were filled with remnants of her people's knowledge. She had to find it. Using a small hover device she had managed to fix from the rubble, Lyra slowly moved across the broken streets. The device was shaky, imperfect, but it carried her a few meters at a time. She had named it Sparrow, after a small bird she had once seen in her childhood, a symbol of freedom and resilience. As she traveled, she discovered fragments of messages left behind on data pads, holographic projections flickering with the faces of those who had left. Some were sorrowful, some angry, some indifferent. She scanned each one, trying to learn what had happened, why the war had started, why her people had fled so quickly. The more she learned, the more she understood the complexity of her world, and the more alone she felt. But not completely alone. Lyra found small robots designed for maintenance, long abandoned, yet still functioning in small ways. They moved with jerky motions, cleaning debris or repairing minor damages. She began to communicate with them, teaching them to assist her in small tasks. With their help, she could reach places she could not alone, move objects too heavy for her, and slowly begin reclaiming a part of the world. Days turned into weeks. Lyra's body remained weak, but her mind grew sharper. She discovered an old library buried beneath the ruins. Holographic books and data crystals filled the rooms, containing knowledge of technology, medicine, and the histories of countless civilizations. She spent hours absorbing the information, dreaming of ways to repair her body, to regain her mobility. One evening, as the twin suns of the planet set behind jagged mountains, Lyra looked out across the valley below. The ruins stretched endlessly, but she no longer felt completely powerless. She had a plan, small but growing. She would use her knowledge, her intelligence, and whatever technology she could salvage to build a device, a mobility suit that could allow her to move again. Her thoughts were interrupted by a distant sound, faint but distinct. A low hum unlike the wind or the robots. It was mechanical, rhythmic, and it was approaching. Lyra froze, her heart racing. She had not seen another living being since the evacuation. Could it be someone coming, or something dangerous? The sound grew louder. Sparks of curiosity and fear filled her mind. She watched from the shadows as a figure appeared on the horizon, slowly descending from the sky in a small craft. It was not like the ships of her people. The design was different, simpler, more practical. And as it landed, a hatch opened, revealing a human stepping out. Lyra's first instinct was to hide. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and she had no idea if this one would help or harm her. But there was something about the figure that caught her attention. His movements were careful, respectful of the ruins around him. He scanned the area, not with weapons raised, but with a kind of curiosity that mirrored her own. For hours, she watched him from a distance, studying his behavior. He seemed to be searching, looking for something, but not for destruction. When he finally noticed a damaged data panel, he crouched and began examining it, his fingers working with precision and care. Lyra realized he was not a soldier, not a conqueror. He was an explorer. Her curiosity overcame her fear. Slowly, she revealed herself, stepping into the open with trembling hands. The human froze, then smiled softly. "Hello," he said. His voice was calm, gentle, without any threat. "I didn't expect anyone to be here. Are you alone?" Lyra hesitated. Trust did not come easily. "Yes," she said finally, her voice quiet but steady. "I am alone." The human nodded, understanding her fear. "I'm Adrian," he said. "I've been searching for knowledge, artifacts. I never imagined I'd find someone like you." Lyra studied him, trying to read his intentions. There was something in his eyes, a mixture of intelligence, patience, and empathy. Perhaps she thought this human could be different. Perhaps, for the first time since the evacuation, she was not completely alone. And in that moment, under the pale sky of a broken world, a fragile connection formed, a spark of hope that would change both their lives forever. Lyra did not yet know how much this human could help her, nor how much she could teach him in return. But she knew one thing: her life, abandoned and broken as it seemed, was about to take a new turn. For the first time in many long months, Lyra allowed herself to believe in something greater than survival. She allowed herself to hope. And hope, she realized, could be the strongest force of all. The morning sun had not yet fully risen, but Lyra was already awake. The pale green sky glowed faintly, casting soft light over the jagged ruins. She had spent hours thinking about the human who had arrived the day before. His name was Adrian, and there was something about him that stirred a feeling she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Her body ached as she moved to the edge of the collapsed building. Though she could not walk, she had learned to use the small hover device she called Sparrow. It was slow, unreliable, but it allowed her to explore the ruins with more freedom than before. And today, she decided she would approach Adrian. The explorer was busy examining the remains of an old energy core, his fingers tracing the alien symbols engraved on its surface. He looked up as Lyra hovered near him, his eyes widening slightly but then softening. "You're awake early," he said, his voice calm and gentle. "Didn't sleep much?" Lyra shook her head. "Sleep is easy, surviving is hard." Her words were quiet but full of meaning. She had spent too long alone, thinking, planning, and waiting. Finally, someone had come, and she was not sure whether to trust them completely. Adrian nodded. "I understand. I've traveled to many worlds. I know what it's like to be alone, but you're not alone anymore, I promise." Lyra studied him carefully. Humans were unpredictable. They could be dangerous or kind, but something in Adrian's eyes told her that he meant what he said. Slowly, she allowed herself to relax just a little. I need help," she admitted. "I cannot walk. I cannot move well on my own. I have tried everything, but nothing works." Adrian crouched beside her, studying her carefully. "We'll fix that," he said simply. Together we'll find a way. Lyra's heart skipped. She had not heard such words directed at her in a long time, not from her people, not from anyone. The human's calm confidence was like a small light in the endless darkness. For the next few days, Adrian and Lyra worked together. He examined the hover device, helping her repair it, making it move smoother and faster. They scavenged the ruins for useful parts, metal panels, energy cells, broken robots, and slowly, they began building a small workshop inside one of the partially intact buildings. Adrian admired Lyra's intelligence. Even though she could not move freely, she had a mind like no other. She understood technology, strategy, and survival. She could analyze complex systems and find solutions to problems that even Adrian had struggled with. "You're very clever," he said one day, handing her a tiny tool. "You know, most people would have given up long ago." Lyra blushed slightly. She was not used to compliments, especially from someone outside her species. "I had no choice," she said. "I had to survive." "I had to do something," Adrian smiled. "Survival is important, but so is hope, and you have both." It was the first time Lyra thought about hope not as a fragile thing, but as a force that could grow stronger with care and attention. Adrian's presence was changing something inside her. She felt a warmth she had not felt in months, or maybe years. One morning, Lyra watched as Adrian adjusted a series of energy conduits. Sparks flew from the panels, illuminating the room in short, bright flashes. She realized something. With the human's help, she could build the mobility suit she had dreamed of for so long. The suit would not restore her legs completely, but it would allow her to move independently, to explore the world again, to reclaim a part of herself that had been lost. "Adrian," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I think we can do it. I can move again." Adrian looked up, his eyes bright. "I knew you could. We just need time, tools, and patience. And you're not alone anymore. I'm here with you." Lyra felt a strange sensation, a mixture of gratitude and something deeper. She did not know the word for it, but it was like the warmth of sunlight after a long winter. She nodded, determined. Together they would build the suit. Together she would walk again. Days passed, and the suit began to take shape. It was a marvel of ingenuity, a combination of human engineering and alien technology. Adrian worked tirelessly, while Lyra instructed him on how to adapt the alien components. The suit was powered by energy cells scavenged from the ruins, and small robotic joints allowed her to move her legs in controlled motions. The first test was terrifying. Lyra climbed into the suit, her body trembling. She felt the weight of the metal, the hum of energy coursing through the joints. Adrian stood beside her, holding her hand. "Are you ready?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "Yes." The suit activated with a soft whirring sound. Slowly, carefully, Lyra lifted herself from the floor. She wobbled, teetering as the mechanical legs adjusted to her movements. Fear gripped her heart. What if she fell? What if it didn't work? But then she took a step, and another. Her movements were awkward, but she was walking. She was truly walking. Adrian cheered, a broad smile on his face. "You did it! You're walking!" Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She had not cried for months, not since the accident, not since her people abandoned her. But now tears of joy ran down her cheeks. She hugged Adrian, her strength returning not just to her legs, but to her spirit. With the suit, Lyra's confidence grew. She explored the ruins with a new sense of freedom, moving faster and farther than she had ever thought possible. She found hidden chambers, rooms filled with old alien machines, and data crystals containing knowledge long forgotten. Adrian followed her, fascinated by everything she discovered. "You're amazing," he said one evening as they watched the twin suns set behind the mountains. "I've never seen anyone adapt to so much so quickly," Lyra smiled. "I had to adapt. Survival is not enough. I want more than that. I want to understand, to learn, to grow, and I want to see what the universe has to offer." Adrian nodded. "Then we'll do it together." "There are worlds out there, Lyra, planets full of life, knowledge, and adventure, and we can see them together." Her heart swelled. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt that the future was hers to shape. She was no longer abandoned. She was no longer powerless. And she was not alone. But not everyone would accept her newfound strength. As Lyra and Adrian prepared to leave the planet, the ruins seemed to stir with old memories. Automated defense systems, once dormant, began to activate. Drones that had been left to guard the city now detected their movements. Lyra realized that her people, or at least their technology, still watched over the world, even in their absence. "We have to be careful," she said, gripping Adrian's arm. "The city is alive in a way. It doesn't want outsiders." Adrian nodded. "I'll follow your lead. You know it better than I do." Together, they navigated the corridors and streets, avoiding patrol drones and collapsing structures. Lyra's knowledge of the ruins, combined with Adrian's ingenuity, allowed them to escape each danger. With each obstacle, Lyra's confidence grew. She realized that her perceived weakness had never been a weakness at all. It had been a challenge, one she was more than capable of overcoming. Finally, they reached the landing site of Adrian's ship. Lyra paused, looking back at the ruins. She felt a strange mix of emotions, sadness, pride, and gratitude. The city had abandoned her, yes, but it had also taught her resilience, intelligence, and courage. And now she had a partner, a friend, someone who believed in her. Adrian noticed her hesitation. "We'll come back," he said softly. "There's still so much to explore here." "But for now, the stars are waiting," Lyra smiled. "The stars!" She repeated the words, tasting them. For the first time, the word felt like a promise, not a dream. She climbed into the ship, Sparrow hovering beside her, ready for new adventures. As the engines hummed and the ship lifted from the planet's surface, Lyra looked down at the world she had called home for so long. She had survived. She had grown. And she had found someone who cared, someone who believed in her. The galaxy awaited, full of unknown worlds, mysteries, and wonders. And Lyra, no longer abandoned, no longer powerless, was ready to face it all. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. The stars stretched endlessly before them, glittering like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Lyra sat in the ship's observation window, watching as the planet they had called home shrank into a tiny green dot behind them. For the first time, she felt both excitement and fear. The galaxy was vast and unknown, full of wonders, but also challenges they could not yet imagine. Adrian noticed her silence. "You're thinking a lot," he said gently, glancing at her from the pilot's seat. Lyra nodded. "There is so much out there. I want to see it all, but I don't know what to expect." Adrian smiled. "No one ever does, but that's the adventure, isn't it? We face it together. You and I." Lyra felt a warmth spread in her chest. The human's words were simple, but they carried trust, courage, and a promise of partnership. She realized that for the first time, she did not have to face the unknown alone. Their first stop was a planet rich in crystal forests and floating lakes, a world untouched by war. Lyra's mobility suit allowed her to move freely over rocky terrain, her steps precise and strong despite her past paralysis. The locals, small amphibious creatures with shimmering skin, observed her with curiosity. Some even approached her cautiously, fascinated by the glowing metal of her suit. Adrian took notes while Lyra studied the environment. Her mind worked like a machine, analyzing patterns, understanding energy flows, and predicting natural movements. She discovered that the crystals resonated with certain vibrations, a property that could be harnessed for energy. Adrian looked at her with admiration. "You see things I could never notice," he said. "You're incredible, Lyra." She shook her head, smiling. "I just pay attention." "That's all. You are clever too, Adrian. You always find ways to use what we have to survive." Their teamwork was seamless. Where Lyra spotted danger or opportunity, Adrian executed the plan. Where Adrian suggested creative tools or adjustments, Lyra calculated the possibilities and improved them. Together, they navigated the forests, discovering small artifacts and hidden data nodes left by ancient explorers. But not all worlds welcomed them. On the fourth day, they received a distress signal from a nearby system. A colony ship had gone silent, and the coordinates matched the location of a planet recently claimed by a hostile faction. Adrian hesitated. "Lyra," he said, his voice serious. "We don't know who or what awaits us there. It could be dangerous." Lyra looked at him, her mind already working. "Danger is part of exploration. We can prepare. We can handle it together." Adrian nodded. "All right, but we must be careful. I trust your judgment." When they arrived, the scene was grim. The colony ship was partially destroyed, its hull pierced by laser fire. Fires burned across the surface, sending smoke curling into the sky. Yet amidst the destruction, there were survivors. Small groups of colonists huddled near the wreckage, frightened and injured. Lyra's heart went out to them. She immediately activated her mobility suit's medical support system, using the energy conduits to stabilize the wounded. Adrian coordinated rescue operations, guiding survivors to safety and repairing critical systems on the ship. It was their first real test in the galaxy. Their combined intelligence, courage, and humanity saved many lives that day. Lyra realized that her perceived weakness, the accident, the paralysis, was no longer a limitation. With the suit and with Adrian by her side, she could act, lead, and protect. As the last survivors were evacuated, a scout drone appeared on the horizon. The hostile faction had noticed their intervention and was sending forces to reclaim the planet. Adrian prepared the ship for takeoff, but Lyra stepped forward. "We can't just run," she said firmly. "We have to slow them down, protect the survivors." Adrian looked at her, surprised but trusting. "What's your plan?" Lyra smiled, her eyes glowing with determination. "The crystals, I studied them. If we can amplify their vibrations, we can create a shield that blocks energy attacks." Adrian nodded. "Then let's do it." Working quickly, Lyra adjusted the crystal's alignment, while Adrian rigged power amplifiers. Sparks flew, energy hummed, and the shield activated just as the enemy ships arrived. Their weapons bounced harmlessly off the shimmering barrier. Lyra moved with precision, directing the energy flow, while Adrian piloted the ship to safety. It was a breathtaking moment. Together, human ingenuity and alien intelligence had created a solution neither could have achieved alone. The enemy retreated, confused and frustrated, while the survivors cheered. That night aboard Adrian's ship, Lyra sat quietly, reflecting on what had happened. She felt exhausted, yet alive in a way she had never felt before. Adrian handed her a cup of warm, nutrient liquid. "You did amazing today," he said softly. "You saved lives, you—" Lyra shook her head, smiling. "We saved lives, you helped, I helped. Together, that is what matters." Adrian's smile widened. "Yes, together, I like that. You and I, a team." Lyra's chest warmed again. She had spent so long abandoned, believing she was alone. Now she realized that she had found more than survival. She had found partnership, friendship, and a sense of purpose. The following weeks were filled with exploration. They traveled from system to system, encountering strange creatures, unusual planets, and hidden knowledge. On one world, Lyra deciphered an ancient language that revealed long-lost techniques for energy manipulation. On another, Adrian designed tools that could repair and enhance alien machinery. Through it all, Lyra and Adrian learned to depend on each other. Where Lyra's suit allowed her to move and act in ways her body alone could not, Adrian's quick thinking and experience allowed them to navigate unknown dangers. They complemented each other perfectly, their partnership growing stronger with every challenge. One day, while exploring a dense asteroid field, their ship was ambushed by a band of space pirates. The attackers fired energy nets, attempting to trap the ship and board it. Lyra's quick thinking allowed them to maneuver through the asteroids, avoiding capture. She recalibrated the energy shields on the ship, turning the attackers' weapons against themselves in a controlled feedback loop that forced them to retreat. Afterward, Adrian laughed in disbelief. "I cannot believe we just did that." Lyra smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You would have fallen behind without me," she teased. Adrian grinned. "And you would have crashed without me. We really are a team." That moment, filled with relief and laughter, reminded Lyra how far she had come. From the abandoned ruins of her home planet to flying through asteroid fields with a human she trusted completely, her life had transformed in ways she could never have imagined. Yet, not everything was simple. Lyra could feel that their journey was only beginning. The galaxy was wide, full of civilizations that did not understand her, dangers that tested her intelligence, and challenges that would push her beyond her limits. She knew that some would see her as weak because of her past, because of her disability, and because she was different. But she also knew this. She was no longer the abandoned girl who lay helpless on a ruined floor. She was strong, capable, and alive. And with Adrian by her side, there was nothing they could not face. One quiet evening, Lyra and Adrian sat on the deck of the ship, watching a nebula swirl with colors of purple and gold. Lyra leaned back, feeling the hum of the ship beneath her. "Do you ever wonder why humans are so different?" she asked softly. Adrian tilted his head. "Different how? You care so much, even for strangers, even for someone abandoned, someone no one else would help. You make people stronger." Adrian smiled. "Maybe it's just part of being human, or maybe it's because I found someone worth helping." Lyra's heart skipped. She did not need to understand the full meaning of his words to feel their truth. For the first time, she felt that she truly belonged, not just to a place, but to a partnership that could face the universe together. The stars stretched infinitely before them, full of unknown adventures, discoveries, and challenges. Lyra knew the journey would not be easy, but she felt ready. For the first time, she did not fear being abandoned. She was not alone. And she knew that, together with Adrian, they could overcome anything the galaxy placed before them. The stars stretched endlessly outside the ship's windows, but Lyra was not focused on them. She sat at a console, scanning incoming transmissions from nearby systems. After weeks of exploration, word of her and Adrian's deeds had begun to spread. Survivors from distant worlds sent messages of gratitude. Some called them heroes. Others simply wanted to learn how a paralyzed alien girl and a human had accomplished what seemed impossible. Lyra felt a strange mix of pride and discomfort. She had never expected recognition. Back on her home planet, she had been abandoned, left to survive alone. She had believed that the galaxy would judge her only by her weakness, by her disability, by her difference. And yet here she was, respected, admired, and sought after. Adrian noticed her silence and placed a hand on her shoulder. "They're recognizing your strength," he said gently. "Not just your intelligence, but your courage, your heart. You earned it." Lyra smiled faintly. "It feels strange. I was invisible once. No one cared if I lived or died, and now—" She trailed off, unsure how to explain the flood of feelings. Adrian squeezed her shoulder. "Now you're not invisible, and you never will be again." Their next mission took them to a planet called Vierlia, home to a council of multiple alien species. The council governed a network of trade routes and had been wary of outsiders for centuries. When Lyra and Adrian arrived, they were greeted with suspicion. The council had heard rumors of the alien girl who walked with a human's help and feared it was some kind of trick, or perhaps a threat. Lyra stepped forward from the ship first, her mobility suit gleaming under the planet's twin suns. She held her head high, unafraid, her confidence radiating from her movements. The council members studied her closely, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and doubt. "You claim to be an abandoned alien," one counselor said in a voice like gravel, "and yet you walk. You possess knowledge we have not seen in centuries. Why should we believe you are not a threat?" Lyra's voice was steady, calm, and clear. "I am no threat. I am proof that intelligence, courage, and compassion can overcome what others call weakness. I do not seek power nor vengeance. I seek understanding, knowledge, and the chance to help others." Adrian stepped beside her, nodding in agreement. "She is telling the truth. I have seen what she can do. I have seen her act not out of fear, but out of care. The galaxy could learn much from her example." The council murmured among themselves, clearly impressed by the pair. Many of the species present had never encountered such a combination of skill, bravery, and empathy. Lyra realized that this was her opportunity, not for revenge against those who had abandoned her, but for influence. She could show others that differences were not weaknesses, and that cooperation between species could achieve incredible results. Over the following days, Lyra and Adrian assisted the council in solving several crises. A trade station had malfunctioned, causing food shortages across nearby colonies. Lyra analyzed the energy systems and discovered a simple adjustment that restored balance to the station. Adrian assisted her in implementing the repairs quickly and safely. Then, a small group of pirates attempted to raid a cargo convoy. Lyra and Adrian devised a clever strategy using holographic decoys and controlled energy fields to redirect the pirates' ships away from populated areas. The operation was flawless, leaving the council astonished. By the time the council convened to review their deeds, Lyra had already gained a reputation. She was not just an abandoned girl. She was a symbol, proof that courage, intelligence, and compassion could change the galaxy. One elder counselor, a tall being with silver scales and 3 glowing eyes, spoke up. "You have done more than survive, child. You have led, protected, and inspired. The galaxy is watching. Humans are unpredictable, yet admirable. Together, you show that collaboration can overcome fear and suspicion. You deserve our respect." Lyra felt a surge of emotion. Respect was a strange feeling, yet it was not frightening. It was empowering. She had once been abandoned, left to struggle alone. Now she was being recognized, not for her physical ability, but for her mind, her courage, and her heart. The council requested that Lyra share her knowledge with younger species, teaching them strategies for problem-solving, innovation, and compassion. At first, she hesitated. She had never been a teacher, she had never imagined anyone would listen to her, but Adrian encouraged her gently. "You can do it," he said. You've overcome so much. Your experience is valuable. Others can learn from you. Lyra nodded. She began holding lessons and workshops, guiding curious young beings through simulations and exercises. She taught them how to analyze problems logically, how to work together, and how to face challenges without fear. Her students thrived, eager to learn from someone who had turned adversity into strength. Adrian watched her proudly. He could see the change in her. She was no longer just surviving, she was leading, teaching, and inspiring. Humanity had shown her care, but her own determination and courage were shaping the galaxy now. Word of Lyra's achievements reached her home planet. Her people, those who had abandoned her, heard of her leadership and wisdom. At first, some were dismissive, believing she had exaggerated her abilities. But as reports continued, detailed accounts of her clever strategies, her successful interventions, and her partnership with a human, they began to reconsider. Lyra felt no desire for revenge. She wanted them to see her strength, yes, but also to understand a greater lesson, that compassion and cooperation were more powerful than fear and prejudice. She sent a carefully crafted message, not as a challenge, but as guidance. I survived because I refused to give up. I thrived because someone believed in me. If you want your people to succeed, do not abandon those who are different or weak. Strength is measured not by power alone, but by intelligence, courage, and kindness. The message spread quickly, and slowly, her former people began to reflect on their actions. Lyra's influence had reached far beyond her immediate surroundings, and she realized that she could make a difference in ways she had never imagined. One evening, as Lyra and Adrian sat on the observation deck, watching a nebula ripple with colors of violet and gold, Lyra spoke quietly. I never thought the galaxy would respect me, she admitted. I always believed I was weak, useless. But now I see that strength can come from unexpected places. Adrian nodded. You've shown that to everyone, and to me too. Humanity is proud to have met someone like you. Lyra smiled. And I am grateful for you. Without you, I would still be alone, unsure if the stars were meant for me. He reached out and held her hand. The stars are meant for everyone brave enough to reach for them, and together we've done that. Lyra looked out at the nebula, feeling a deep sense of peace. Her journey had not been easy. She had been abandoned, paralyzed, and underestimated. But she had overcome every challenge, and now she was respected, admired, and capable of shaping the galaxy in ways she had never dreamed. The stars held no fear for her anymore. They were full of opportunity, knowledge, and adventure. And for the first time, she felt truly part of something larger than herself, a galaxy that recognized her worth, and a human companion who believed in her as much as she believed in herself. The next day, the council held a formal recognition ceremony. Lyra was honored not only for her intelligence and courage, but also for her ability to inspire others. Beings from countless species attended, observing the young alien girl who had been abandoned and the human who had helped her rise. When she received the council's emblem of recognition, Lyra's heart swelled. It was more than a medal. It was proof that perseverance, courage, and compassion mattered. She glanced at Adrian, who smiled proudly back. Together, they had changed the galaxy, not with violence, but with understanding, intelligence, and partnership. From that moment on, Lyra became a symbol, not just of survival, but of hope, courage, and the power of working together. She had shown that differences were not weaknesses, and that humanity's best qualities, kindness, ingenuity, and empathy, could lift even the most abandoned and underestimated beings to greatness. And as she looked out at the stars once more, Lyra felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown challenges and mysteries, but she knew that together with Adrian, she could face anything. She had gone from abandoned and powerless to respected and influential, and her story was only beginning. The galaxy was watching, and Lyra was ready. The stars stretched endlessly before Lyra and Adrian, each twinkling light a reminder of how far they had come. From the abandoned ruins of her home planet to the councils of distant worlds, Lyra had grown stronger, wiser, and braver than she had ever imagined. And Adrian had been with her every step of the way, his human ingenuity, courage, and kindness guiding her through the unknown. Now they were preparing for a new chapter, one not just of exploration, but of building a place where those abandoned, underestimated, or different could find hope. Lyra had spoken with leaders across the galaxy, and many had offered their support. Together, she and Adrian planned to create a sanctuary, a hub of knowledge, innovation, and safety where all beings could learn, grow, and thrive. The location they chose was a small, remote planet, its surface a mixture of forests and gentle hills. It was far from war zones, with natural resources to sustain life and technology. Lyra had worked tirelessly to prepare the site, using her knowledge of alien engineering to construct buildings that blended with the environment. Adrian contributed by designing energy systems, gravity stabilizers, and protective fields. "This place, it feels alive," Lyra said one evening, walking along a path lined with glowing plants. She moved smoothly in her mobility suit, her steps confident and free. "Like it wants to welcome people, not scare them away," Adrian smiled. "It does, and so will the people who come here. They'll see what we've built and feel safe, just as you once felt unsafe but survived." Lyra nodded, thinking of all the abandoned, overlooked, or underestimated beings she had encountered. She wanted them to know that differences were not weaknesses, that intelligence, courage, and compassion could overcome any obstacle. The first arrivals were a mixture of species from across the galaxy. Some had disabilities, some had been rejected by their own societies, and some had simply sought knowledge or refuge. Lyra greeted each of them personally, learning their stories, listening to their struggles, and offering guidance. Adrian assisted with practical needs, teaching engineering, navigation, and survival techniques, but he also encouraged the newcomers to work together, to trust one another, and to discover their own strengths. One day, a young alien named Tico, whose wings had been damaged in an accident, approached Lyra hesitantly. I don't know if I can do anything here," he admitted. Lyra knelt to his level, her glowing eyes kind but firm. "You can, everyone can. Strength is not just about what your body can do. It's about your mind, your heart, and what you choose to do with them. You are capable of more than you know." Tico's eyes brightened and he nodded. "I want to try, I want to help." That moment captured the essence of the sanctuary. Lyra's words were more than comfort. They were empowerment. One by one, the newcomers learned that their perceived weaknesses could become their greatest strengths when nurtured with patience, guidance, and opportunity. As the sanctuary grew, so did its reputation. Word of Lyra's leadership, her ingenuity, and her partnership with Adrian spread across the galaxy. Delegates from distant systems arrived to learn from them, not as rulers, but as teachers. Lyra held lectures on problem-solving, strategy, and innovation, while Adrian demonstrated practical applications of technology and cooperation. Their work was not without challenges. Some species were skeptical, resistant to ideas that challenged their traditions. Others tried to test the sanctuary's defenses, unsure whether it was truly safe. But Lyra's intelligence and Adrian's quick thinking overcame every obstacle. Together, they showed that trust, collaboration, and courage could unite even the most unlikely allies. One evening, while Lyra and Adrian were reviewing plans for a new learning module, a communication arrived from her home planet. The message was formal, sent by the council that had once abandoned her. "Lyra of the abandoned world, we acknowledge your accomplishments. Your leadership, intelligence, and courage have inspired many. We seek guidance and wish to learn from you." Lyra read the message carefully, then looked at Adrian. "They want to learn," she said softly. "After all this time, they recognize that abandoning others was wrong. They want guidance now," Adrian nodded, "and you'll give it to them not with anger but with wisdom. You've earned this moment." Lyra smiled faintly. She replied to the message, offering mentorship and teaching programs for those willing to learn. Her words were firm, yet kind. "Strength is not measured by what you leave behind, but by how you lift others. If you truly wish to prosper, help those who are different, abandoned, or underestimated. That is the path to true greatness." Her home planet listened, and slowly change began. Policies were reformed. Attitudes shifted. Lyra had not only survived and thrived, but she had become a force for positive change across the galaxy. Life at the sanctuary continued to flourish. Lyra and Adrian watched as newcomers adapted, learned, and grew confident. There were engineers, healers, explorers, and thinkers, all working together, united by the belief that differences were strengths when combined with courage, determination, and compassion. One day, while walking through the central courtyard, Lyra noticed Tico helping another newcomer repair a hover device. The boy who had doubted himself was now confident, teaching others what he had learned. Lyra's heart swelled. This was why she had endured the abandonment, the struggle, and the fear. Moments like this were the true measure of success. Adrian joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Look at what you've built," he said. "Not just buildings, not just machines, but hope. You've changed lives, Lyra, and it's only the beginning." Lyra looked around, her gaze settling on the newcomers, laughing, learning, and exploring. "It feels like a family," she admitted softly. "A family of the galaxy," Adrian smiled. "It is, and you're at the heart of it." Even as peace and prosperity settled over the sanctuary, the galaxy continued to present new challenges. Reports of conflict in distant sectors, uncharted worlds with mysteries to uncover, and civilizations in need of guidance arrived daily. Lyra and Adrian faced each new obstacle not as separate individuals, but as a team. They had learned that adversity could be met with courage, creativity, and partnership. One particular message caught Lyra's attention: a world plagued by an ancient ecological imbalance, threatening the survival of multiple species. Lyra studied the reports and devised a plan, drawing on her deep understanding of technology, biology, and energy manipulation. Adrian assisted with logistical support and engineering solutions. Together, they traveled to the planet, implementing strategies that restored balance and protected life. When the species of that world celebrated their success, Lyra realized something profound. Her influence extended far beyond the sanctuary. She was no longer the abandoned alien girl who had been left behind. She was a leader, a teacher, and a symbol of hope for countless beings. One quiet evening, after a long day of planning and teaching, Lyra and Adrian sat atop the sanctuary's highest observation deck, gazing at a sky full of stars. "I never thought the stars would feel welcoming," Lyra admitted. "They always seemed so distant, so unreachable." "But now," she smiled faintly, "now they feel like home." Adrian reached out, taking her hand. "The stars are always there, Lyra, always, but it takes courage, intelligence, and hope to reach them, and you've shown all three." Lyra's heart warmed. She realized that the journey she had begun alone, abandoned and powerless, had transformed her. She had learned that strength was not only physical, it was intelligence, courage, compassion, and resilience. And she had discovered something even more precious: that partnership, trust, and love could amplify that strength beyond imagination. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," she said softly. Adrian shook his head. "No, Lyra, you could have done it." But together we became unstoppable. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars twinkle. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of opportunity, mystery, and adventure. And they knew that whatever challenges awaited, they would face them together, humans and aliens united, guiding others, learning and growing. As the sanctuary flourished, Lyra's story spread across countless worlds. Beings from distant systems came not only to learn, but to witness the symbol she had become. A paralyzed alien girl, once abandoned, now thriving and leading alongside a human companion. She showed the galaxy that what some consider weakness can be transformed into extraordinary strength with courage, knowledge, and the support of others. The sanctuary became a hub of hope, a place where innovation and understanding grew side by side. Lyra taught, inspired, and led, while Adrian built, protected, and guided. Together, they created a world where the abandoned were embraced, the underestimated were empowered, and the galaxy learned that cooperation, compassion, and intelligence were the greatest powers of all. Years later, as Lyra and Adrian stood on the observation deck once more, a new generation of explorers, engineers, and leaders gathered below. The sanctuary had grown into a thriving community, respected throughout the galaxy. Lyra watched a group of students laughing, working, and learning together. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Adrian squeezed her hand. "You see, you've changed the galaxy, Lyra." Lyra nodded. "No, we changed it together." She looked out at the stars, endless and full of promise. The girl who had once been abandoned, powerless, and alone had become a symbol of hope, courage, and the limitless potential of the universe. And she knew, without doubt, that the adventure was far from over. For now, she and Adrian had created something lasting, a new future, built on trust, intelligence, compassion, and unity. And as the stars shone brightly above, Lyra felt a simple truth deep in her heart. The galaxy was theirs to explore, protect, and inspire, side by side. Together they were unstoppable, together they were home,